Let me show you what happens when you eat carbs. All carbs have to be broken down into smaller molecules called glucose or blood sugar. It doesn't matter if the carbs are simple or complex, they all end up in sugar. Blood glucose is used by your cells for energy. A rise in blood glucose will trigger the pancreas to release a hormone called insulin. Insulin allows the glucose to enter your cells. Insulin is like a key to the door of the cell. It opens the cells to glucose. All carbs, whether they are simple or complex, will end up in blood glucose. However, the way the body processes them is quite different. Complex carbs are whole food made by nature. They hold a lot of fibers. For that reason, it will take longer for the body to process the glucose. The blue line is the spike of glucose after consuming complex carbs, such as vegetables, legumes, beans. Red line is a spike of glucose after consuming simple carbs. Simple carbs are low in fibers. For that reason, it will spike your blood glucose really quickly. Take an orange, for example. You can find oranges in nature. Even though it's a lot of sugar, because of the fibers, it's going to take a long time for your body to process the glucose. It will not spike your glucose the same way this would spike your glucose. This is basically water and sugar. It will spike your glucose. Like this has the same amount of sugar as this. They will both spike your glucose the same way. You cannot find orange juice in nature. It's been processed, and during the process, the fibers have been removed. So I know what you're thinking. This has vitamins and minerals. And you are right. But if we added vitamins and mineral in this, would you think it's healthy? And this is the problem. The typical American diet has a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then we snack in between our meals and even after dinner. And because over 80% of our food is simple carbs, every time we consume food, we have a spike of glucose. We have a spike of glucose after breakfast, and now we're hungry, so we get a snack, another spike. Lunchtime, a bigger meal. Let's say you have pasta or rice. Those are simple carbs. They spike. You have a big steep spike of glucose. When you have a big spike of glucose, you have a big drop of glucose. When you have a big drop of glucose, right here, this is where you feel hungry, you feel tired. So what do? Another snack, another spike of glucose. Now it's dinner time. Another pasta, pizza, big spike, big drop, hungry, tired again, you snack again. Now you end up having high glucose spikes all day long. Day after day, week after week, year after year. The blue line is the insulin trying to bring your glucose down to get into the cell. But because you have all those glucose spikes, your insulin does not have enough time to come down. It remains chronically elevated. The more glucose you have, the more insulin you have trying to get the glucose inside the cells. When the cells are full, they get overwhelmed, they close the door. This is when you become insulin resistant. The insulin is knocking at the door of the cell is no longer responding. Your glucose and insulin are stuck in your blood. They have to go somewhere because you keep eating more simple carbs, you keep having those glucose spikes, the high insulin. It has to go somewhere. Your body will store the glucose in the form of glycogen, first in your muscles and in your liver. When this is full, it's going to store your glucose in the form of fat in your liver. Over time, this can lead to what is called non-alcoholic fatty liver. If this is not taken care of, it can lead to non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver, and this is not curable. When your liver is full, the excess glucose gets stored in the form of fat in your fat cells and in visceral tissue around your organs. Insulin resistance leads to prediabetes. Prediabetes leads to type 2 diabetes. Once you have type 2 diabetes, it affects all the cells in your body and then leads to what we call type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's and dementia. And all of this because we don't eat enough fibers. 95% of US population is deficient in fibers. A third of the US population is insulin resistant. And 9 out of 10 people who are insulin resistant don't know it. So I'm going to show you what a body that's insulin resistant looks like. When you are insulin resistant, you may have skin tags, dark patches of skin under your armpit, your groins, or the back of your neck. This is not dirty skin, it's insulin resistance. So if you treat the symptoms, it's going to keep coming back. You have constant cravings for salty or sweet food. You are tired all the time, especially after meals. You have hormonal acne, hormonal imbalances. You may have endometriosis, PCOS. Women may have facial hair. And this is the visceral fat. We have two types of fat. Okay, this is an abdomen. You have the skin here. Underneath the skin is called subcutaneous fat. This is harmless fat. The fat that's underneath your organs and around your organs is called visceral fat. This is where the glucose is stored in the form of fat when your insulin is constantly high. This is very dangerous fat because it's linked to cardiovascular diseases such as heart attacks and strokes. And this type of fat does not respond to calories in, calories out. So you can try to do a diet, it's not going to work. And this is why. Your body can use two fuel sources, either glucose from the food you just ate, right here, from your breakfast. Okay, if you have cereals and milk, those are simple carbs, they will spike your glucose. So your body can use the energy from the glucose or from the stored fat. The fat stored in your liver, in your fat cells, in your visceral fat. However, your body will keep using the glucose as long as you have glucose in your blood. So if you keep having those spikes of glucose, your body will never get to the stored fat. If your glucose is the food you put in the fridge, when the fridge is full, we put everything in the freezer. Your body will use whatever's in the fridge before it can access the freezer. I'm going to show you how you can access the freezer. But first, let's talk, are we eating all those simple carbs? This is going to be in part 2.